Hello friends, and let's get started.
My wife Evelyn was always a good housewife, but she never made domestic chores an absolute. We'd been together 12 years, and during that time we had our spurts of passion and periods of cooling off, but it was all natural in married life. One Sunday afternoon, I awoke to the aroma of fresh coffee and toasted waffles. Evelyn was standing in the kitchen in a short silk robe, barefoot, smiling. She brought me breakfast in bed, crisp waffles, cappuccino poured into a china cup, and a plate with orange slices neatly arranged. This struck me, because usually in the mornings we either go out together for coffee at the nearest coffee shop, or I make something quick myself. But not this time. "Surprise, honey," she exclaimed cheerfully, taking a seat next to me and looking at me with shining eyes. Her voice was so warm and gentle, as if we'd just gotten married and returned from our honeymoon. Her tone made my insides tingle, and I suddenly felt a sharp wave of attraction to her that I had not felt in a long time. The next day, I was no less pleasantly surprised. After work, I came home and saw that the living room was shining clean. There was a huge bouquet of wildflowers on the table. I know she likes to buy such arrangements on her way home from the farmer's market. She had prepared something special, pasta with a sauce of fresh tomatoes, ricotta, and basil, and for dessert, her signature cheesecake. "I thought I'd treat you," she said as I admired the belly feast. Evelyn was usually happy to have dinner with me, but she was not as excited about the kitchen chores. Now she was happy not only to cook, but also to create the atmosphere. Candles, soft music, the soft light of a floor lamp. That evening we spent talking, as in the first months of our acquaintance, with a glass of wine, touching each other's hands. A couple days later, a new surprise. I woke up early in the morning to go for a run, but Evelyn beat me to it. She not only woke me up with a light kiss, but also shook me up, in another way, to put it carefully. What happened next was hard to describe in one word. It was a fierce yet tender rush of passion, as if we were back in our college days, when we could make love at any time of the day or night. Sweet warmth poured through my body, adrenaline surging. When we stopped, I almost could not breathe, and she laughed into my tired lips. "I'm sorry, I just realized how much I missed you." At that moment, I felt as if a whole garden of new sensations had blossomed inside me. In my soul there was a doubt. Why so unexpectedly? But I quickly dismissed it. What if she really had a second wind for marriage? Maybe she realized something, reconsidered her views. Or read an inspiring article about the importance of keeping the fire burning in a relationship. Each day I noticed more and more signs of her incredible care. She decorated the bedroom with nice little things, scented candles, vases with little bunches of lavender. She left notes with short confessions. "You make me happy. I love the way you look. I dream of giving you the whole world." I caught myself sitting at work and smiling, remembering her morning kisses. Colleagues would notice my good mood and ask what was wrong. Maybe I was wrong to suspect her of being cold. I said to myself one evening, she was just tired, she was going through a rough patch, and now maybe it was over. I was insanely grateful for this happiness. The thought was going around in my head. Does it really happen that love blossoms anew and brighter than before? I could not find any other explanation, but I did not want to. I reveled in this tenderness, this wave of positivity, and her constant endeavor to make me happy. I wanted to believe that all this was the result of our long journey, that we had finally reached a more conscious stage of married life, when people appreciate each other and are willing to make sincere efforts to make the relationship rekindle. However, very soon I began to notice things that made the hairs on the back of my neck move nervously. First was her newfound enthusiasm for jogging. Evelyn had said before that it was time to exercise. I ran in the mornings, she sometimes ran on weekends. But now it was as if she ran every other day, and not just around the block. Sometimes she would drive off to some new park and come back an hour or an hour and a half later, all radiant and proud of herself. I, of course, rejoiced in her enthusiasm. At last she was doing something for her health. But the look in her eyes after those runs was filled with some mixed emotions. On the one hand, enthusiasm, and on the other hand, deep inner excitement. Then I started to notice that her phone was starting to be protected with a complex password. Before, we'd never set anything more than a simple PIN code for the lock screen. Well, it happens so that the children of acquaintances do not snoop on correspondence. But now she set up multi-step authentication, a facial scan, then a 4-digit code, then a fingerprint. At least that's what it looked like to me. I joked that it was like she was keeping state secrets. She joked back, "We have tighter security requirements at the agency now, and well, the personal data bank." She was also online more often in the evenings, even when we were sitting together. I'd see the light in her eyes when we'd watch a TV show. I'd ask, "Who are you texting?" She smiled, "Oh, nothing much, work chats. You know I have a design team there in a different time zone." And most curious of all, one day, while she was in the shower, her cell phone, which she had mistakenly left charging, rang in the kitchen. It was calling an unknown number signed with a strange nickname, Pro Coach. My hand twitched to pick up and answer it, but curiosity and conscience got into a brief battle. I decided it was best to stay out of her business without permission. Especially since she had been so wonderful the last few days. What a pig I would be if I suspected her of anything wrong. One night, I accidentally stumbled upon her notebook peeking out from under her pillow. I never paw through her notes, but here it was sticking out so much that I automatically reached to shift it, and out of the corner of my eye I saw a list, arranged in columns, with numbers, Day 8, Day 9. Day 8 was labeled, Erotic Massage, and Day 9 was labeled, Surprise in the Shower. I remember this was consistent with how we had those 2 days. On the 8th day of her transformation, she did give me a massage, very sensual, with new techniques. And on the 9th day, we had fun in the shower in a way we had not dared in a long time. I smiled, thinking that maybe this was some kind of personal self-development course for her, like how to bring passion back into a marriage in 30 days. In a funny sort of way, but I was glad rather than puzzled. Well, suddenly she has an online program where a psychologist or sexologist recommends ways for wives to revitalize their relationships. Is that a bad thing? Still, I had a slight unease at the very fact that she was being so secretive. Usually we discussed everything openly, but here I could see her trying to hide something. Maybe she was embarrassed that she'd gone to such lengths. So I paid more attention. And that's when I noticed that she was not only smiling on her phone, but she was nervously looking around to see if I was looking. Open tabs on her laptop closed abruptly when I approached, and sometimes she seemed to mumble something to herself, as if repeating some kind of mantra. All these little things gradually accumulated in my mind, causing a vague sense of unease. Reason suggested that maybe there was nothing wrong with her taking some secret spouse training, but intuition pounded at her temple. Careful, there's something wrong here. Eventually, I shared my doubts with my best friend, Kirill. He is married and used to family life, but he was known as a man who is very cynical about relationships, although he cherishes his own family. We crossed paths at a bar after work, and I smiled and told him how cool things were at home. I missed male conversations and wanted someone to appreciate my happy smile. Look, Kir, it's like a real honeymoon at home right now. Evelyn is the perfect wife. She cooks, cleans, the passion is boiling, even leaves notes. You should see me, how I fly, I said, laughing and at the same time feeling a ticklish warmth inside. He grinned and raised his eyebrows. Really? How long has this been going on? About 2 or 3 weeks. But every day is a new surprise. I thought at first that she started some kind of self-development. But there are strange moments. She began to run, hides the phone, a notebook with a plan for 30 days. Although, probably, it's some kind of challenge to revitalize the relationship if she is so taken for me. Kirill rubbed his chin thoughtfully. Maybe I'm being too suspicious, but you know what they say. The perfect wives are either in debt or cheating. I laughed and shook my head. Oh, come on. She CA not B. Look, I do not want to ruin your high. Kirill said more gently. Maybe you redoing really well. But you said yourself she's got something to hide. A phone with extra passwords, a notebook with detailed notes? And if she really did something, well, I do not know. It would not hurt to check. I brushed it off, my friend's phrase lodged in my brain. I spent the whole evening after our meeting in a state of inner turmoil. On the one hand, I believed that trust was the foundation of marriage. On the other hand, this secretive behavior was getting to me. In the end, I decided to try to figure it out. Desperation gave me the courage to look at my wife's laptop. Usually she would shower in the evening after her run, change into her home clothes, and then cook us dinner or have dinner with me together. She went to the bathroom that day too, and the laptop was left on the living room table. I knew she had a separate work laptop, but this one was kind of private. When I opened the lid, the system demanded a password. But I noticed that the cursor was already in the active field, and the hibernation window had not fully shut down yet. Mechanically, I pressed enter, and suddenly the desktop popped up. Apparently, she had not had time to close the laptop properly. My fingers trembled. It was almost like a spy movie when you have seconds to find something. My heart pounded. I saw several open tabs on my browser. One of them was minimized, and the icon looked like hashtag 30 days ideal. I clicked. A site with some sort of blog or newsletter platform opened, but immediately a window popped up. A password is required to access the content. I tried entering the standard combinations. No result. But there was something else. I quickly clicked on my browsing history and saw several links to pages like Relationship Coach, Author Course for Women. The titles did not tell me anything. Maybe it's really a bring passion back into marriage training. But Kirill and his phrase did not get out of my head. Soon I came across a mention of Pro Coach. This is the same contact who called her a couple weeks ago, and there in the story were links to a closed women's group. It became clear that she was reading something, probably getting emails. She's being taught something on purpose. But what? The door to the bathroom opened. I almost jumped up, slammed my laptop shut, and pretended I was just looking at my work emails on my phone. She, coming out with damp hair, smiled. "Hi. Everything okay?" she asked, casting a brief glance at the closed laptop. Yeah. I mumbled and hurriedly stepped farther away. An anxious energy was boiling up inside. I wanted to calm down on the one hand. What's the big deal? Maybe it's a really harmless 30 Days of the Perfect Wife course on how to surprise your spouse. Does that make sense? Makes sense. But then why such a secret? Why the layered passwords? And most importantly, where did Pro Coach come into her life? For a couple nights in a row, I could barely sleep. I felt hot and cold just imagining what might be out there. On the other hand, in the morning, Evelyn continued to delight me with her tasks. She would paint the mirror with lipstick and confessions, or organize a romantic picnic in the living room. I felt like I was living in paradise, but there was a worm of doubt in my brain. Eventually, I gathered my courage and started looking for a way to access this private mailing list. I knew it was immoral, but otherwise I would go crazy. I took advantage of my honed programming skills. I had once been a techie in my youth, and I remembered some of the hacker stuff. It took a few evenings to write a small script that would intercept passwords if the user opened a particular page. I knew she did not have a helper antivirus on her system, and I was doing everything locally, with no internet access. Sounds harsh, but the desire to get to the truth overpowered. One night, I waited until she was asleep, went into the living room, connected to her laptop, uploaded this program. That was it. All I had to do was wait for her to log back into that particular platform, and my script would show her what she would enter. 24 hours later, in the evening, as she sat in front of the laptop again, ostensibly looking at recipes, I felt almost physically sick with foreboding. In the other room, I quietly turned on my phone and accessed the logs that were being streamed in real time to the cloud storage, and saw the characters she was typing in. The password was something like, "Love Me Coach 2023. I broke into a sweat. Coach. I could barely keep myself from storming right in there. But I said to myself, stop, you have to follow through. Otherwise you would not know the truth. When she put her laptop away and went to bed, I logged back in and was now able to log in using her password. A site opened up labeled Members Only. Inside was an entire blog and videos designed for women who had lost their passion for their husband but found someone to awaken their desires and inspire change. I froze as if struck by thunder. In huge letters on the website's masthead it read, "Challenge hashtag 30 days ideal. Make the most of it to finally determine who your future is with." The description said something like the following. This course is not for ordinary wives, but for those who already have a new partner but are questioning whether to leave the family. Our program is a way to see if you are ready to close an old relationship. Over the course of 30 days, you'll complete tasks designed to get your legal husband all excited. And you'll realize at the end which of the two you want more. I read those lines several times, as if I could not believe it. Then I open the page with the days and assignments. Day 1, breakfast in bed. Day 2. Open conversation about feelings. Day 3. Surprise with a hot kiss. Day 4. We're something super sexy tonight. And so on, all the way up to day 30. Everything I've been going through lately matched letter for letter. But most importantly, there was a note. You must not neglect dating your lover. Continue your dates, but do not give your husband any reason to suspect you. Your goal is to find out who your true passion lies in. I was leafing through the materials and saw comments from users, women, judging by the avatars, where they were reporting back on how they were tricking their husbands, dialing up the passion. And he, the pro coach, was leading them on, praising them, giving them tips on how to cover their tracks. At one point my fist clenched. I wanted to smash that fucking laptop against the wall. But I fell silent. Tears of rage and frustration rolled down my cheeks. My wife, my Evelyn, meaning she already had someone in her life. And all the excitement, all the notes, all the breakfasts, not love, but an experiment. Who would she be better off with? I sat like that until I felt like I could not breathe anymore. I closed the laptop, got up, and walked around the room, trying not to make any noise. My thoughts were racing. Maybe this is a mistake. Maybe she was just watching this course for fun. But in the back of my mind, I knew it all fit together. Inside the program was a section of live videos that the pro coach, that lover coach, hosted for his mints. The most recent broadcast had taken place just the day before. I pressed play. From the speakers came the cheerful voice of a man. Hi girls. Glad you continuing the game. We already at the equator. Today is the 15th day, and I'd like to recognize a few of the contestants. In particular, we have Evelyn. Yes, I see your chat message. You write that your husband is thrilled that he is starting to get jealous of your runs, but you masterful at smoothing out the angles. That's great work. I'm proud of you. Keep it up. Trust me, a couple more days and you'll realize who you want more. To keep the illusion of a perfect marriage, or to open yourself up to a new life we can build together. Keep going. You on a great path. My heart stopped for a moment. The name, Evelyn, came through clearly and the comments on the screen confirmed it. She was asking him questions, which he was answering publicly. All of these girls were encouraging each other, sharing that their husbands were on the hook. And some confessed that they had almost decided to go to the pro coach, some of them with him, some with another man. But in all cases the point is the same. This course is designed for women who have found lovers and allows them, in essence, to make the final choice. Just a couple more days, and she'll make a choice. I whispered, recounting the coach's words. What choice? Dump me or stay? Oh shit. I abruptly turned off the broadcast. I found it hard to be in the same room with my laptop, as if it had been contaminated with toxins. I was shaking, my fingers were throbbing nervously, and a volcano of anger, pain, and betrayal was roiling inside. How could she? How had my Evelyn gotten to this point in the first place? The most unpleasant part was realizing that all her caring actions were part of some compare husband and lover, see who's better scenario. I sat on the floor, leaning against the wall for I do not know how long. Tears were streaming down my face, and I was quietly wiping them away, as if I did not dare to admit that I was crying. But there was nothing left to do. I felt our marriage was going down the drain. Shit, that asshole. I muttered through clenched teeth. Fucking coach. Bastard. But I could not blame it on him. She'd taken the course herself. So she'd already crossed the moral threshold, started dating someone other than me. This pro coach is just adding fuel to the fire, giving her pseudo-scientific justifications, excuses. The first second I wanted to burst into the bedroom, rip the blanket off her and yell, "Why are you doing this?" But after I cooled down, I decided I had to act coolly. I wanted to figure out who she was seeing. It could be the coach or someone else. I could not rule out that she had a live lover, and this one was just guiding the process. I remembered the advice from a video on the internet. If you want to turn a situation around, incorporate a mirror strategy. Become better than you want to be and see how the liar reacts. It seemed logical to me at the time. I decided to become the perfect husband, too, to go out of my way to help her. Maybe I'd see how she'd get her way. In the morning, I made breakfast myself and brought it to her in bed. She was pleasantly surprised. We laughed. She thanked me for taking care of her. I asked her if she wanted to go jogging together. She raised her eyebrows in surprise. You always run alone. Yeah, and I usually. Come on, I replied with a smile. I want to try something new. Do you mind? She hesitated, then said, I have to run in another park today. It's a tough course. Your knee hurts sometimes, so maybe you do not want to do it. It's nothing, I can manage. I could see how she did not want me to go with her. In the end, she got out of it. I've got women's stuff to do today, and I was going to stop by the sporting goods store afterwards. I did not insist, smiled and said, okay, I would not ruin your plan. But as she drove away, I did start following her in the car. She had indeed parked at a large park on the other side of town where there are running tracks. I waited off to the side, seeing her run out with her headphones on. Then she did a lap around the route and suddenly met a man, a trim brunette, clearly an athlete, who was waiting for her at a bench. They exchanged a few words, and she kissed him on the cheek, in a way that seemed friendly, but still too intimate. I almost burst with jealousy, but I decided to keep watching. After about 15 minutes, the three of them, it seems that another person came up, some girl, began to do stretching, and then my wife and the man went somewhere together deep into the park. I did not see them get in the car, so they probably ran down another path. I could have kept following, but I was afraid I'd mess it up before I did. Maybe it's not him. Maybe it's just a fellow runner, I kept telling myself, but I already had a feeling inside that this was probably her new partner, or at least one of the people involved. The next day, I decided to pull off another step of the mirror strategy. I became even more attentive to Evelyn, literally pelting her with compliments, offering to go to a restaurant, giving her small gifts. I could sense that she was confused. Her eyes were either relieved or confused. UVE changed too. She said one evening, putting her arms around my neck. I like it. I understood that this line of hers sounded as if we were both in some kind of theater. We had passion again during the night, but I already knew that her challenge was behind it all. It made me feel a strange mixture of pain and adrenaline inside. And the day came when she announced, I'm going shopping. I need to buy a birthday present for a colleague. I pretended not to mind, although I was inwardly wary. When she disappeared out the door, I quickly got dressed, got in my car, and tried to catch her trail. She drove out of the garage, and I drove the distance, trying to remain anonymous. About 15 minutes later, she parked not near a shopping center, but next to a small cafe. I stood on the other side of the road, watching. Soon a car pulled up to the cafe. A man stepped out of it, and I recognized him from the photo from the live broadcast on the Pro Coach website. It was the same coach who had seemed like an abstract character to me before. They hugged. Then she slid her lips across his cheek. And the way they looked at each other left no doubt that an emotional intimacy had long been established between them. They went into the cafe, spent half an hour there, and then came out and kissed, unashamedly. Not like people who hide their connection, but like lovers, slowly, sensually. My eyes were swimming with rage and resentment, but I forced myself to keep my composure. That's it. It's all clear now, I said to myself, pulling out my phone and discreetly taking a video. The blow under my breath made me want to cry, but I was past that stage. All I felt now was some kind of painful sober drive. When they stepped aside, I quickly got out of the car and followed them in. The cafe was small, and I caught up with them pretty quickly at the back of the premises. Apparently, they were going into some private room, perhaps to talk. I stepped forward and called out to my wife, Evelyn. She turned around, and I saw her let out a convulsive exhalation. The coach, sensing something wrong, took a step back, but kept holding her shoulder. I moved closer to them and tossed my wife her own notebook on the table, the one that read, Day 8, Erotic Massage, Day 9, Surprise in the Shower. You re not a wife? I said quietly, trying not to shout. You re a project. She darted her eyes around, looked frantically at the notebook, then at me. What? Where? Why did you? She began to stammer. Coach wanted to get a word in, but I held up my hand, stopping him. Shut up, I hissed. This is our conversation. I know everything, Evelyn. Your 30 Days of Perfect show is over. I've seen it all. Your videos in the private mailing list, your comments, all that crap. You pretended to be in love on purpose so you could compare who was better? Fine. You did? Now you know I can be the perfect husband, but you probably need a manipulative coach. She looked like she was going to faint. Coach looked confused, but tried to remain calm. Look, friend. We can calmly explain. Friend? You dare to call me that? I swore. You womanizer who seduces married women to behave perfectly with their husbands and decide who to give to in the end. I have no words for how filthy that is. I could not help but look away to take a pause and keep my rage from erupting into a fight. In my heart, I knew that picking a scuffle would be easier than controlling myself. But I wanted to walk away, to preserve what was left of my pride. Evelyn stared at me, pale as a sheet. I'm sorry, she whispered. I did not think it would come out like this. I got confused. Confused? You know, I do not want to hear it. We've lived together for 12 years, and you decided to make an experiment? I'm sure you liked your coach. I would not interfere with your happiness. You guys work it out. My heart was pounding so hard I thought it was going to jump out of my chest. I turned and walked toward the exit. Evelyn rushed after me, but I jumped into the car and drove away before she could open the door. All the way home, I do not remember what was going through my head. I saw flashing street lights, traffic lights. My eyes were wet with tears, though I tried to hold on. I parked outside our house, went inside, quickly packed a few things. I wanted to get far away so I would not hear her come back. Later, as I stood in my hotel room, her number called me several times. I did not answer. Then came texts full of desperation. I'm sorry. I was stupid. Things got out of control. I only love you. And so on. I did not answer. The blow was too fresh. The next morning, I got a call from a number I did not recognize. It turned out to be a pro-coach assistant, offering to settle the conflict and saying that the coach himself would like a friendly explanation. I, of course, sent him away. A week later, however, I took the initiative myself, but not the one he was expecting. I opened the pro-coach website and signed up for a consultation. When I got the call, I said, "Hi. I'd like to sign up for a private session. My goal: how do I make a woman realize she's lost everything?" After a minute, when he heard my voice, the caller fell silent. I recognized the coach's voice. He frantically drew air into his lungs, tried to say something, but I was the first to hang up. The whole scene was stupid, of course, but I needed that moment of moral satisfaction. A few more days went by. I did not return Evelyn's calls, though I did read her messages. She was crying, asking me to come back, saying that it was all a stupid mistake, that she was drawn to the course, that the coach had seduced her, promised her a new life, and that she was confused about her own feelings and did not really want to lose me. I did not believe a word of it. Soon I received an anonymous letter in my mail, apparently from some member of the same course. Apparently, she had gotten wind of our conflict. The letter claimed that pro-coach was a married man who had tricked and manipulated more than one woman from their group into his bed. He supposedly promises everyone a bright future and then siphons money out of them for personal counseling and, satiated by their emotions, dumps them when it suits him. I only chuckled bitterly reading this. No wonder. He himself had taught them to lie to their husbands. Would a man capable of such a thing be honest and loyal? But Evelyn had hoped their relationship was something special. A little later, Evelyn sent me screenshots of her correspondence with him. The coach wrote her literally the following: "You chose me, but I'm married. What did you think? That we going to live together? Sorry, but I have no plans to divorce. I was looking for a muse, not a new wife. Calm down and stop bothering me." After reading that, I felt either pity for her or malicious satisfaction. He had left her, just as she had tried to leave me, comparing who is better. In essence, she was left at a broken trough. Her perfect project turned out to be a mockery of fate. I'd be lying if I said I felt better. The pain of betrayal does not go away in an instant, but there was a strange sense of release. I imagined her, covered in tears, realizing that she had put our marriage of many years on the line and lost. I do not know what's next for our relationship. Maybe someday I'll be able to forgive her. Maybe I would not be able to. I know one thing. She wrote huge letters of remorse, cried on phone calls to my sister, and said she was willing to do anything to get me back. But at that moment, I was not ready for reconciliation. I answered her coldly, "I'll see you when I'm ready," and asked her not to bother me anymore. Sometimes I remember how in the early days of her perfection, I was overwhelmed with happiness, how I thanked fate that we seemed to have a new round of love. Now I realize what a self-deception it was. And yet I recognized what she is capable of when she feels like she deserves something more. It's an uncomfortable truth I'll have to live with. And that's how my 30-day honeymoon ended, which turned out to be an illusion and part of a nefarious plan. And she was left with nothing, deceived by a cheater she herself chose. The irony of it all was presented under the sauce of find true passion in life. Well, she did find something real, her own mistake. And that's where today's story ends. Thank you for watching to the end. If you enjoyed it, do not forget to like and comment. We'd love to discuss this story with you. See you in the next video.